Yo. So I watched Shiboyugi playing deaf games to put food on the table. Um, solid, solid 9 out of 10 in my opinion. Um, and would I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it. Um, with I think two caveats. Um, I guess just one caveat really, but it's I don't want to like say too much if you're planning on watching this, but you I don't know how to phrase this. The first thing is it's non-linear, but I think it'll help that the stories or the anime is completely done now. So you can like kind of binge watch it or at least watch it all in maybe not one sitting, but in a row, right? Within a week or something, rather than having it spaced out like I was watching it. And the main caveat is I'd recommend it, but it's not an anime that you can completely turn your brain off and watch. But aside from that, really fantastic anime in my opinion. Uh, and I guess everything after this will be spoilers. So if you are watching this, then or if you plan on watching, then do not watch. Stop watching. Um, but I really wish I was. I probably should start doing these in like arcs, so that I have a lot fresher memory doing this because I kind of stopped like writing my thoughts um, after each episode because it's kind of getting tedious because I was watching like three or four anime episodes every day and then having to write after each one of those. It's kind of tedious the way I was doing it, but you guys don't care about that. And future me maybe does care about that, but um, it the first episode was like I forget how long it was, like an hour or something, 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little shorter, and it was like the introduction of the premise and all this stuff, and I think it was really captivating. They had different art styles. They were very thematic. Um, I need to study up on like cinematography and animation terms, uh, but it was very they used a lot of techniques basically that I don't know like wording for or whatever, um, but it's really good. I wish I don't want to make a script because that's a pain in you know. Um, so I'm just kind of saying my thoughts. I also watched this like was it like a week ago when this ended. So I've the memory is kind of not that fresh in my brain anymore. Freaking boomer memory. So I'm just gonna go through this. Oh, they had I think fantastic sound design. Um, I can't like give you any off the top of my head, uh, but if you watched it, um, I think I think they had really fantastic sound design. That's really the best thing I can say. There were a lot of episodes where, um, and when I say sound design, I'm differentiating it from music. Uh, and I think one of the very obvious ones is when Aoi in the first game, or well, the first presented game, I think Yuri's ninth game or something like that. I forget. I completely forget all the game numbers. Um, but in the very first presented game, uh, Aoi's death scene was, it was like the most, I don't know how you would call it, immersed I felt in anime in a long time, right? And like I don't know how you call it, like, but sorry, I'm horrible with words. I, um, but if you watch it, it's like, holy shit, this person's dying. Um, it's not really good phrasing, but like, I imagine that's like compared to other uh, animes and stuff like that, animes and shows, it feels like a death of a person is kind of trivial, if that makes sense, right? The deaths here kind of felt more, like this is a person and they are dying because of this other person's actions or whatnot and stuff like that. Um, but that's the sound design. I don't really have much to say on that because I'm horrible with words on that matter as well. So I'll just skip onto that. Uh, but the first game, I'm scrolling through my screenshots because I need to jump my memory. Uh, oh yes, so I guess this will be not as linear as well because my thoughts aren't that linear when I'm telling these stuff. Um, but Yuri's introduced and she like the theme, or I don't know if the theme is the correct word, but the repetition of the fact that she is like a ghost like character, um, which many people, like many different people as well, like in the in universe in game, uh, constantly say like she's just like a ghost, or whatever, um, and that's how like she kind of feels like in the first episode or first game. I guess first episode and first game is the same thing, but in the first game, she feels like a ghost. She feels, you know, kind of. I'm unsure if emotionless is the correct word for it, but she's like, she's like, she's the MC, but she's very distant. You don't know anything about her. Um, I mean, you learn like she has been doing these games and she's trying to clear like the 99. She's trying to clear 99 games and all that stuff or whatever. But she's like a ghost, right? Sorry, I keep repeating myself because I cannot jump onto the next train of thought and I can't progress my thinking. Um, but wait, why was I even talking about this? Oh, yes. So she's like a ghost. And then my understanding, or from when I was watching, my understanding was like, oh shoot, okay, so we're gonna get like a protagonist that like knows her stuff, is able to get through these games, and I guess that is gonna be that kind of anime where we're watching the games to watch the games, right? Um, but as you go on, you kind of figure out, or you kind of learn, like there's a lot more layers to it. There's a lot more things to it, a lot more nuance to Yuri's character, to everybody's everybody else's character, um, characterizations and stuff like that, and that is not like the I don't know how you say it. The games are a means to an end. Is that correct? Or they are not a means to an end? Um, I really should do these earlier. I keep saying that, but night time is the best time to do it. But anyways, uh, you go into these like other games, and it's like, oh, okay. So this is kind of like hand in hand because I just like had this thought pop up into my head. Um, but the way of telling the story is, it seems very linear at first, right? It seems like it's just, for example, like Squid Game, right? Like it's a linear, like time passes forward, their narrator and whatnot is kind of, for the most part, like, uh, I don't know how you call it, like known, right? And that's kind of how it felt like in the first episode and the first game, and then I'm forgetting the second game. Oh yeah, the second game was okay. So like the first game and the second game, it's kind of like known narrative, right? Like a typical way of telling a story is how it was kind of like presented. um, and and there are a few moments where I was like, wait, this is really odd. Like, why is like why is the narration and why is the like text kind of like this? Like, or why not text? Why is Yuri's way of speaking kind of like this? There was like one instance, I forget the first instance, but I also kind of forget the second instance. But there were two instances where uh, there is her inner monologue at that time, and then there is her uh, current monologue at that time, right? Um, and by current, I mean, if you've watched this far, you've surely watched the show. Um, by current, I mean like the telling of the stories, the telling of the anime is her. I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe it's at her 30th game. And if not, her, like at her 30th game, and a little like time has passed, past her 30th game. Um, Looking back, right? So it is like, is this gonna flip? I think because I'm recording it this way, it's gonna be flip. But I'm doing it based on what I'm seeing. So like the linear passage of time, I'll do it backwards. So the linear passage of time goes like this, right? Like the story goes like this. A person's timeline goes this way, right? Um, but you get the story like here, and then here, and then here, and then here, or something like that, right? So the first game is here, like ninth game. Wait, was it ninth? I think it's 12th. 12th game, and then like ninth game, and then 30th game, and then uh, whichever game Kendall Woods was. I forget what the game number for Yuri was like that, right? But you're watching is like linear or whatever, so whatnot. And then the telling of the story is like here, like beyond the 30th game, looking back. Uh, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, there are many instances where maybe when she was doing that when when there were those like narrative, what I keep saying narrative, that's not what I mean. When there were those few scenes where uh, Yuri is like being, she's like questioning or whatever. She was like, how much longer can I go on of this? And she's like sitting in the chair, and the like flickering movie is going on or whatever. Like the old, it's not called rotoscope or whatever, but the old film is rolling. Uh, that was very early on. I think that was the third game, maybe, or the third presenter game, or I forget. Um, but it was relatively early within the episodes. Now I'm wondering if that was in the future, looking back. Um, my memory's so poor. It probably was just her at that time. Um, but sorry, I cannot finish a thought. The narrative is from the future to the past, and there are like two moments where there's two narrations going on. It's her at that time, and then it's her in the present time, looking back. But the entire telling of the story is her in the future, looking back, and thinking about all of like her cumulative games, and like her way of life and stuff like that, right? And that goes back to what I was talking about with her as a person, and how we view her, of how excuse me, and how we see her like initially as this ghost like person, right? Kind of like, I don't know how you call it, John Wick, but right. There's like certain characteristics where it's um, kudere, is that the correct word? Maybe that's wrong. um, but she's like chill, uh, logical, like quick thinking, all these like solid traits that somebody would expect somebody to have, a player to have in these games to make it as far as she is trying to make. Um, and then you go on, and then here you realize that you go to, is it the third game that's presented, the onsen, um, and in that, like, so the second game kind of like, at least from my memory, it kind of solidifies that like view and opinion of her, where she's like, okay, she's got her stuff down, she like, she is like solid and all that stuff, and she's she's gonna do the thing or whatever, um, clear 99 games. But then you go on to the third game, the onsen game, uh, and then you kind of like start seeing the cracks in her, and I believe before this you start seeing the cracks in her, the lead up to it. I think this is where she starts like reminiscing back on some things, um, and this was when the scene happens where she like picks up that phone call in the telephone booth, and then uh, like take this pill or whatever, um, and what the heck was that? That was like, I I typically, no, I'll keep that for something else, but that was, uh, I think that was like, I don't know what to say. I'm a lost word, but a lot of the scenes, a lot of the framing in the scenes in there were very. I'm sure if you got like an art student, or I hate to say art student, that's completely wrong. So do not cancel me for saying art student. An artist, which an art student, artist, any person within that field. Uh, many a lot of the scenes were very like, how do you say it, framed and built in certain ways. Uh, the lead up to the telephone one felt very, I mean, all of it would felt, a lot of it felt very intentional, but this one felt like extremely intentional, right? It's like the symbolism of going downstairs, right? Um, the the like haziness, like film grain, and other stuff like that. The isolation of a phone booth, with no other surrounding, and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of whatever that goes into it. Um, but there was that beforehand, so it's kind of like the cracks are forming. She is like not as solid as one may think. Um, and then you get to the game, and then it's like she is not her. Like she's not in her element. Um, she's like, I forget what happens when she wakes up, but she says something, and it's like, man, that fucking, I forget what she said. Um, I'm gonna. Sorry, I'm just like looking at images to like jog my memory. Um, the image I opened is the one where it says this is a story about a deranged world, and I believe they repeat that many times. Um, I think that's just, I don't know if that's, they use it in the intro a lot, I think, but there were several points, there were some points in the anime where I felt like they used it, they didn't use it in the in the intro, and they used it more like intentionally, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't have that off the top of my head. It's, but you'll probably see it or whatever if I rewatch it. I think I will rewatch it sometime in the future, like years down the line when I've completely forgotten. Um, but we go to the onsen thing, and then it's like her with a bunch of like noobs essentially, right? She wakes up, everybody's formed their own factions and stuff like that, and uh, honestly, the games were not like the focal point for me. Um, a lot of it was in the characters, their actions, their thoughts, and similar stuff. And uh, real quickly, I want to say, honestly, the I will say it was I personally thought it was a good touch, and that like each game uh, had like different people for the most part. Um, and in my opinion, I felt like everybody had enough time to shine uh, within the given amount of time that like this anime had to do it. I think it was really good. There's a lot of things you can get from a character from like short flashbacks, and not everybody had, and not every single character had this, by the way. Oh, excuse me. Whether they were secondary, tertiary, or like just like a, if you want to call it like a throwaway, right? Um, but every character had like actions, thoughts, flashbacks, mannerisms, and all like basically when you meet a person IRL, right? You kind of like get impressions from them based on like how they act, how they speak, etc., 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 right? And it's like a subconscious thing when that happens, you know. Um, and the conscious thing you do is like you judge them, you formulate opinions on them as you get to know them longer, stuff like that. Like you see that, oh, this guy agrees with me, this guy doesn't agree with me, this guy has these thoughts, that thought, etc. They like these activities, and then you like form your knowledge on them, right? And I think they did a really good job with a lot of these characters because it feels like you learn a lot about them uh, within the given amount of time. Like, or sorry, I don't have a good example because my memory is shot. It's been a week and I've been watching too many different animes. So apologies. I'll have to do these in arcs for me to better relay my thoughts. Um, but uh, like, sorry, I cannot think. What was I talking about? I mean, the characterization is kind of like an aside for me, but I just wanted to say that, like, even though a lot of these guys had short screen time, um, I still felt like I want to say personal because you don't spend enough time with them to get to like a level where it's like, oh shoot, you know. Um, for some of them, it does feel like that, right? Uh, but sorry, I keep yapping about this. That's that's that. That's my opinion on that. But we get to this point where it's like, dude, like you, she is like basically leading all these noobs, and all these noobs are like, oh shoot, we got a veteran, yippee, let's go, you know. Um, and it's like, I mean, these are life and death games, obviously. Uh, so they are relying on her to get her through, right? And I mean, as everybody who's watched this has seen or whatever, the the bamboo scene where it's like she, all the people come in, and she didn't like Yuri didn't check because I forget what's her name. She just says, yeah, it's good or whatever. It's a wall, um, and I mean, like Yuri, she could have checked it herself to make sure that like it's not like a fake wall or anything. Like it might be real and whatnot. Um, but I mean, she's just off her game, etc. Uh, for like psychological other reasons. And then, sorry, I my thoughts are so horribly misplaced right now. Let me finish the thought on where all these people are relying on you. Um, all these people are relying on you, and it's like, shoot, I feel like there have been lots of times in my life, and probably a lot of your lives, if anybody's watching this, where you like rely on someone, and because you don't know anything, uh, and it's like, especially in a situation like a death game, you are vulnerable, right? And the expectations are high, uh, and the trust is high, right? Um, and then the bamboo thing happens, and they all get freaking slaughtered, right? Uh, and then that's when it's like, oh shoot, like this is. I mean, I don't know if you would call it blood on her hands. Some people can see it that way. Some like it's a death game. You should take care of yourself and whatnot. But this is kind of where you start seeing like, dang, what the like, Yuri has, uh, Yuri is like beholden to these people, kind of, if that makes sense. Because they were trusting on her, and she was basically like, okay, I will like, kind of like handle it all, plan everything, etc. Um, and then, oh, what's her name? Mitsuri? I gotta look. Uh, Mishiro. Mishiro, her rival, the rival that was introduced. I completely didn't talk about her because I was gonna talk about her later, but whatever, anyways. But Mishiro, the rival that's introduced in the second game that we see, I forget what number it is, 8. Um, the 8th game. I'll call it the second game, the second viewed game that we saw. She's introduced, right? And then it's kind of like she's this haughty girl, um, haughty character, where she is, leader type. Everybody should listen to me. She's never known loss and defeat and stuff like that. Uh, there were several thoughts I had where I was I was like, so there's so much stuff I like haven't talked about, and I probably will not get to talk about all of them because it's 12:25 a.m. I need to sleep as always. Um, but Mishiro. Oh, sorry. The things I wanted to talk about, the blood turning into cotton. These guys have advanced technology, um, and stuff like that. And then the second game I also want to talk about. I would have never thought of this, but I mean, there's like themes and stuff to the games as well. Dude, who are these game devs and what are they doing? You know, um, they had the theme of the like the Greece, like the paper card ballot voting in Japan, and then they had the like their clothing, which like was representative of like Greece or whatever, during when they would do the voting with the like rocks. I think maybe I'm misremembering how the voting thing goes in Greece at least, but they like did the voting thing. They were like, yeah, if you think about these games, then there's like themes and stuff that might help you uh, with it or whatever. Um, so the Mishiro thing, um, she's built up to be like this kind of like rival or whatever. I forget what I forget what Yuri says, but she's like she obviously gets scorned by her, and then Mishiro is like hunted down by that wolf, and and then I forget what else, but during the thing she's like during when Yuri finds Mishiro, she's like say that you lost or say that something, admit something or say sorry. I forget what it was, but she was basically like this person who has never known defeat is now like saying, we'll have to admit defeat. Um, I cannot think, so I will go on to the next thing. The other thing was, how the heck does this technology work? I was under the assumption that like these game devs, I'll call them game devs, uh, like could fix anything, right? Because they like did the bleeding and then they like kind of heal you up or whatever. So when Mishiro was when they left, and she had her arm chopped off, I believe it was her arm or was it her leg, I forget. Uh, but she gets like a prosthetic, right? Um, and during that time, I was like, wait, is she getting this prosthetic to like remind herself that like this is her, like she her weakness or whatever, like remind her of her weakness during that time when like she first experienced like the mental loss that she hasn't experienced in a long time, um, or is it just because the game devs couldn't like fix her? Excuse me, but I believe the game devs could fix her, can fix her in the case that if they had the arm, they could have reattached it. Because in the onsen scene when Mishiro and Yuri are fighting, like her fingers get down the drain, so she couldn't recover her fingers. I believe. So I believe they can fix her with the technology or whatever. This technology is crazy, by the way. Um, but I didn't even get to say the thing that I wanted to like kind of build up to, which I probably did a very poor job of doing. But the the Mishiro and Yuri fight, right? This was like this is like what you expect, or not this, but in Mishiro's mind, that this is like what you expect in general, right? Like a like a big climactic build up. Both teams getting stronger, or both people getting stronger, um, overcoming their weaknesses, stuff like that, yada yada yada. And then you meet on like a freaking epic hill or something, and you guys like duke it out using your ultimate moves, and then one person is out, and then they are the winner or whatever, right? That's how a lot of animes do it, how a lot of stories do it, um, and whatnot, right? This is not a dig towards that, like, what do you call it? Ar- I don't think it's archetype. Uh, Trope. This is not a dig at that kind of trope. I enjoy those myself a lot. Um, this is just like the state of mind of Mishiro and how she views her rivalry with Yuri, right? But obviously, when the time comes, I would say obviously, as in like to the people who's watching this, when the time comes, Yuri is like bounded by Rico, the little kid, the freaking tiny chibi mara. Sorry, no cursing. I mean, is cursing fine? I think cursing's fine. But by little bro, right? Little bro that freaking Michelle has been like raising or whatever the frick you want to call it. Um, and uh, she's like bounded, and she's like, man, what a freaking pathetic state you are in, you know? Like, this is what I've been like prepping myself up to, you know? Like, like you go in and then it's like, bro, it can't be that easy, but it was that easy. And then you like the whole ordeal goes down, and then they start fighting or whatever. Okay, I don't remember, so I think I gotta look, but they start fighting or something like that, and then Yuri is essentially going to die, and then is like very visceral. She's like, I do not want to die, you know, and it's like extremely visceral, right? Um, and it's like it's not. I don't know how the best way to say it. Like in general life, a person does not think about uh, like the immediate threat of dying, for the most part. Like um, and and in a story like this, and killing games and death games, the like the thought process of like dying is not, I don't know how to say it properly without sounding confusing. Um, like death is obviously at the forefront, right? But there's always an objective or something to do. Um, so it's not like at the very, very, very forefront of what is being presented and how we view the characters and how we potentially think about like what a character is thinking, right? Like when we watch a show or whatever, it's like we think about what the character is thinking, um, and death and like how to and like the immediate thought of death is not, I don't know how to say it. At least for me when I was watching this, it's not like I am doing this like a horrible job of explaining, but not at the forefront. She's thinking about the game. She's thinking about how to succeed. She's thinking about traps, all this stuff. But then this scene comes up and it's like, dang, this is like number one. She does not want to die, right? Like she's saying this and she's running away and she's trying to avoid the fight. Not even thinking about the like what she needs to do because obviously she needs the little tags or whatever, the locker room tags. I think that's what those little things are used for. I don't know. Um, but she needs a little card to get out. Um, and she's not even thinking about that. She's just thinking about surviving and not the immediate threat of death that is fighting Mishiro or whatever. And then you get that freaking, how do you call it? Like, not honorable fight or whatever. Like, very low tier. Is that the correct term? Low tier fight that Mishiro, like, absolutely hates. And then, why not? Um, but then you're like, oh shoot, Yuri is not, uh, like, Yuri is not, like, invincible, is not, like, infallible as one may think, right? At least presented from the first two games. Wait, is this the second? Is the Onsen game the second game? No, it's the third game that we see. Um, okay, so that's the Onsen thing. That's Mishiro. I have a lot more thoughts, but it's 37 minutes. Holy crap. I need to be able to formulate my thoughts better. Uh, so we will go on. We will go on. Oh, and then this is Candlewoods. The next thing is Candlewoods. And what a freaking game Candlewoods is. Huh. Um, I don't know where to start with this. And there's also a lot of general thoughts I have. I guess I'll just start with what I am thinking off the top of my head. And that's with the relationship between, I forget their names. I have to look. Moegi and then whatever, Chara, right? Moegi, the green haired girl, and then Chara, the freaking crazy psycho girl, right? Um, and their relationship of, like, I mean, it probably represents a lot of things. I didn't think about it too much, but like, could be love, could be student and teacher, could be, I think it could be a lot of things. I'm sure somebody analyzed this and understand this way better than I do. But their relationship of how they got into their relationship of freaking the Santa Claus, whatever that game was, and she's like, please take me under your wing. Um, and then she's like, and then Chara asks her those questions, those few questions, is like, I forget the questions, but one's like, do you love your parents or something? And then it's like, oh, what do you think about people who hold pets or like who takes, like, who has pets, have pets? and Moegi is like, she responds with, I think they look down on her, or I think they look down on them, and that they're like superior. They have like a superiority complex or whatever, and then she talks about like, what how do you feel about your parents, and then she's like, I want to kill my parents and all this stuff, right? Um, and then you go into the relationship, you go into the flashback of them and all that stuff, and you know, and it's like, I cannot think. If you watched it, you know what happened. So I'll just talk about what I can think of without having to talk about the story too much. But the relationship between them is like, I mean, would you call it abusive or whatever, right? Like controlling. Um, but would you ever say that Chara is ever actively, like purposely controlling Moegi, right? It feels more like it is. It feels like more it's um, like, I don't know how to say it. Like when you as a person view somebody else on the outside, objectively, it's a lot easier to tell like, okay, this person is like falls under this kind of category, right? But when you are the person themselves and you don't do like self reflection, then it's you don't really realize that you are that kind of person, right? So to Chara taking care of Moegi, does she understand that she holds all this power over Moegi, and that Moegi like kind of fears uh, Chara to a certain extent? Um, there are like many instances where Chara asks Moegi, she's like, "Have you killed your parents yet?" And she's like, "No, I haven't," or whatever. And then eventually she goes and does it. Uh, and I think I remember very vividly there was like blood on her hands and stuff like that. I was like, wait, does the technology not work outside of the world or whatever? Um, but then you quickly learn that it is just her parents' blood or whatever, right? It's not like, because she starts like pounding the ground, um, and I believe, may I might be completely misremembering this, but she starts pounding the ground, Moegi, and then like blood comes out, and it like cottonizes or whatever, and then you're like, oh shoot, like your body that has been altered or whatever is now like that outside of the games. So the games hold like control outside of the world too or whatever. That's like a whole different thing that I probably won't talk about because I didn't think about that too much. Um, but that scene where, I mean, dude, there is so much like they talked about. Holy shoot, I'm doing this story injustice. I'm not doing the story justice because I forget. Um, but tells Moegi that story of the some bird trying to become like the sun or whatever, but I completely forget. But you know what I'm talking about. And then Moegi is like trying to become the sun, but not really. Um, but she's trying her best or whatever to get better at least. Um, and then there's that scene where they're under that. Is it the whale? Is that a whale? A whale bone? Like whale skeleton? Um, and holy moly, I gotta wrap this up. Uh, and then oh shoot, and then I can't think of any other word, but Moegi is telling that thing. Oh, sorry, 140, 1240. I cannot think. 1241. Um, she's like slamming the ground, and then she is like cannot control her breathing, and then Chara like holds her, and she's like telling her to like breathe slowly or whatever, like she's doing the slow breaths. And I forget the exact words, but it was like this was the first time I don't know if it was the first time, but Moegi essentially interpreted that as love, right? Um, I'm guessing because she never experienced like love from her parents to be able to get to the extent where, uh, to be able to get to the extent where, she does the where she interprets Charu's Kiara's actions as love. And holy moly, I just had this other thought of the that one person, I forget her name, the Azuma, Azuma, the short haired, like kind of, is it black hair? The short black haired, tan girl. I believe she was tanned. In the onsen, when they're talking about like why do you play games? Holy moly, this is also another thing that I didn't talk about. But why do you play the games, right? Everybody has a reason for them playing the games. Um, but she was talking about like why do you play the games, and then and then Azuma was like, because for me like killing is easier than living in normal life or whatever. Um, I'll get back to the games thing. I'll probably end up on that, uh, because this is going too long. What was I even talking about before this? Uh, oh, real quick aside, and maybe I'll talk about this in a different like separate video. Watch the OPs and endings. At least I understand like people skipping them if they're like binge watching, but watch the OPs and the EDs. I feel like, I mean, for stories like this, which are very narrative driven, uh, and like story, I mean, horrible way of putting this, but actually, you don't know me that well. I know me this well, but story driven, right? Of course, every story is story driven, but this is like, it has like a lot of things built into it, right? Um, and the OP and the ED is one of them. So I would recommend you watch all of them. Uh, I should have said that at the beginning. This is like, if you're at this point, you've been spoiled by everything. But whatever. Um, what the Candlewoods and whatnot. Um, Candlewoods is like the scene where the game where like everybody's like, holy moly, that was like a massacre or whatever. Um, there's like a lot of anticipation and stuff built up, at least for me, when they like name dropped Candlewoods several times, before the game was even like shown, and then they show Candlewoods, and I'm like, okay, what's gonna go on in this thing? And then you learn there's a freaking psycho killer or whatever in here, uh, and whatnot. Um, and one, okay, my, well, scheiße. Uh, sorry. I'm sleepy beyond comprehension. And then I have to freaking do all the other animes that I watched this season because they all like ended besides like one that is like going to end like tomorrow. I don't know if I would do one for each and every single one. Maybe I'll do like a multi one. But Candlewoods, ah, lots of symbolism, lots of whatever. I cannot think right now. Holy moly, I'm like actually gonna pass out right now. There is Shisho, her freaking, uh, what's her name? Yuri's boss, Yuri's mentor. Uh, what's her name? Hakshi. She's on her 93rd or 96th game. I think it's her 96th game. And then one of the persons is Sumiyaka, the the like white haired girl, with like red kind of like accent to her hair, the bunny girl or whatever, and she's like, you know, like if the chance of getting through a game is like, was it 70%? Like there's a 70% survival rate or 90%. I forget the number, but uh, with the amount of time she's gone through this, just like percentage wise, it's like a 1 in 50 trillion or 5 trillion or some number. I forget. You can do the math. I'm sure the math is like 70. I forget. I took my freaking what math is this? It's not discrete. It's like freaking algebra or something simple. It's just like to an exponent. You just do a number to an exponent, and then you get like the probability. Anyways, that's not the point of why I should be making this video. Um, it's like she's a one like basically if you think about all the amount of luck and skill and like charisma and all the different kind of like traits you need in order to like win these games, is like you were talking to like a freaking like the creme de la creme of these players. And then we find out that she freaking died. Holy moly, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, she freaking died. Um, and then Yuri is confronted by Kara and whatnot, and it's like, oh shoot, here we go, or whatever. Dude, there are so many layers. It's like Yuri, so Kara altered her body to basically like have metal plates or something underneath her so that she's like invincible to like normal means of whatever, like death. And so Yuri sees the bear, and she's like, she trusts in, um, either she trusts or she's willing to take the gamble or whatever you want to call it, but she basically was like, uh, I cannot think. Hakshi, her mentor, would not have gone down without a fight or without like, what do you call it? When you have like a plan B and plan C and whatever. I forget, there's a word for it. But when you have a second plan, third plan. So she sees that bear on her dead body, and she's like, guns for it. And then she gets the gun, and then she friggin' whoop yippee is able to fight back with Hakshi, right? And then the end of the anime, it's like Hakshi wakes up. She's like, you can stop playing dead or whatever, and she opens her eyes, and you're like, what the fuck, you know? That was a genuine like what the hell moment for me. But it's completely understandable. I mean, because we're the story takes place in a like obviously technologically advanced world where you can make blood into this like cotton thing, and there's that one death where they like literally melted the person, right? Like, if, because all that was left was the cotton or whatever, right? So whatever the poison or whatever the chemical was that was used to completely dissolve a person of their bones and like everything, and to just have like the blood left over is like crazy technology to have. Is that possible in our world? Maybe, I don't know. But she wakes up, and it's like, I can't think. She has like freaking numerous backup plans or whatever you want to call it. Like, she is a 96 game winner for a reason. And I was looking back on the images I took like a couple weeks ago or a week or two ago, and one of the conversations before this game was started was what happens when you like get into a scenario. I forget the exact phrasing, but it was like what happens in like a bad scenario essentially, and then Yuri answers play dead question mark, and then the mentor is like no, don't play dead. Uh, and, and then as you find out, she freaking plays dead. Um, but the level to which she plays dead is like here or whatever, right? Because for Yuri and the average person playing these games, if you're gonna play dead, it's gonna be pretty obvious that you're dead, and you probably don't have the means to stay alive if they were to check if you were dead and whatnot, right? Um, but Hakshi does have the means to do that, so she does. Um, and what was I gonna say? I can't think of anything else. She can't like. She set up the bear, also Hakshi, because now this is just presumptions of how she is as a character. Um, but she set up that bear with a gun in it because she believed either it was a contingency. Contingency is the word. Holy moly, contingent. It was a contingency for in the case that somebody needed it or Yuri needed it. Um, and the other thing is that she potentially may have thought that Yuri would be incapable of beating Kara like by a normal one-on-one. I mean, I guess it's still at the end of the day was a one-on-one, but it was a freaking knife to a gunfight. So, but it was also a gunfight in the beginning, anyways. Uh, but it's like how much did Hakshi predict, right? Like if she herself alters her body, she probably expects somebody like Kara who enjoys like killing to probably have altered her own body as well, right? In which case Yuri, who has not a lot of experience, would not expect somebody to whatever, right? So she would shoot to kill, and shooting to kill is like if you're shooting at like a cheek person's cheek, that's like enough to damage them, but just if you can uh slit off I Kara's face because of the technology or whatever underneath her, the metal. Um, so Hakshi's like, okay, well, what's the potential scenario where Yuri is unable to figure this out within the first amount of like bullets she has for her first gun and second gun or however many guns she has. So I will leave up this contingency of the bear, right? And whatnot. And she obviously is also taking care of her own body and living because she is also going to win or whatever, right? Is planning to win. Now I'll finish this out with it's what is the purpose and the reason of why you play these games was I don't know if you would call it like a central theme, but there's a like question that is asked, right? It's asked at the toll booth, like, are these people that are put into these games, are they doing it out of their own volition, or is it because they are there's some other reason that is like holding them against their own will, or there's some reason driving force that like they continue to play these games, right? And this is not for the people who are just doing it for money, right? But obviously, the very first there's a lot of the reasons in the beginning where we learn these guys are playing for money. We learned that Yuri is trying to play these games to clear 99 games. But we kind of don't get like why she wants to do these 99 games. For other people, it's because, like Azuma, she says it's easier to kill than to live in a normal society, right? And then for, I don't know, I'm sure for people like Rico, for people like Mishiro, Mishiro is to like prove oneself that like she is the best. Sorry, I'm doing like Mishiro slander right now by saying this. 12, almost 1 a.m. brain cannot think. I'm so sleepy. Um, I like right now. I feel the freaking, I don't know if you would call it heat, but like I feel the sleepiness seeping into my face. Um, but Mishiro, with her like, she wants to prove that she's good and all this stuff or whatever. Uh, Riko, we kind of don't know why she plays the games. Maybe we do. But she is at least motivated to help Mishiro, right? Like, freaking, she's like, Tetorita, freaking give me head pats. You know? Teorita from Sentenced to Be a Hero. Anyways, why do you play the games? Stuff like that. And then we get like, we get to the Cannon Woods, and then we get the we are like at the end. It's like when it's very obvious that she's telling the story of uh, the story is told in the future, looking back. Like these are like her memories, um, and it's dang. I'm doing this horrible, but the very end, where she's like talking about all this stuff or whatever. Let me see. It's sorry, I can't think right now. Well, like why do you play these games and stuff like that? I mean, we so Yuri's room is outside of uh outside of like the games. We mostly see Yuri's room. I mean, there's like some instances where we see her outside like walking or whatever, but aside from that, it is like her room. She like is in her room, or she's doing the death games or whatever. Honestly, it reminded me of like a hikikomori, however you pronounce that, hikikomori or whatever. Um, and the ending kind of like made me think of that a lot more, because she talks about uh, she said, after graduating middle school and living aimlessly, I started to fear being seen and couldn't go out anymore, right? Oh, I'm mulling my eyes. Um, and I mean, I'm not gonna say too much, but if you ever watch NHK, right, it's kind of like that, right? That's the vibe that I kind of get from that statement. Um, and then she comes out, and she's like, she's gonna keep walking. She's gonna play these games, and then she's going to live in this world as a player. And she will beat this game 99 times. Um, and I feel like that had a double meaning, where she will do her best effort to live life, right? Like live life as, maybe it was a translation error. I don't know, but it felt like it had a double meaning, where she is now like capable and willing to like go out in real life to do things. And then she will also do the 99 clears uh, for that reason as well, or whatever, of the actual killing games themselves. Um, and then at the end, she's like, I, from now on, I will play death games to put food on the table or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. And like, sorry, watch the anime. Do not take my word for it, because I feel like it was very well done. It was very beautiful. Uh, and the ending especially was very well conveyed with who Yuri is as a person and whatnot. The other thing I wanted to say was like I mean, for some people, and by some I mean like I don't know about the average person, uh, but for people who do like certain things, like I mean, honestly, every person, but to the level of wanting to clear 99 games, right? Basically, you like wanting to be the very best at the top. And you don't even need to be like trying to be at the top for this statement. Sorry, but I say sorry because I'm so sleepy. Um, you don't need to be like at the top to like have this kind of like rigor or like what do you call it? Willpower, etc. Any words, but you don't need to be at the top. But holy moly, my train of thought. Um, oh, her reason, like, to be her whatnot, um, is to clear the 99 games, right? Um, and what she does is for that or whatever. Looking back on all of her games, she takes the weights of all the people she has killed indirectly, directly, all the lives of the people, and stuff like that. And sorry, this sounded way better in my head, and also when I was thinking about this like a week or two ago, it sounds horrible now. Um, but basically, what I'm trying to say is like you as a person, right? You, me, going through life every day, like what are the things that drive you, right? There are many ways to just go through life and just coast along. And then it's 26 years old now, you know, soon 50 years old, soon 80 years old. If I get to live that long, soon like 9 years old or whatever, right? Um, the and then time just goes, and whatnot or whatever, right? What is the reason driving you so that you can make use of all these days and whatnot, right? And honestly, I would say that the question of why do you play these games in Shiboyugi, Shiboyugi, uh, is also has like an underlying meaning of what pushes. I mean, holy moly! I was gonna say what pushes you to play these games, but I don't know like how to phrase it properly. But why do you play these games, right? Is underlined by like a similar vein where it's like I don't know how to phrase this. But it's phrased. I'll keep speaking until I'm able to think about it. But it's phrased by like because of certain reasons you play these games, or I cannot. Maybe somebody can understand what I'm trying to say. I understand what I'm trying to say, but I can't like say it. It's like it's like the best example I can give is I mean there's no example actually, but like I as a person, why do I go through my day doing something, like the intentionality of it I guess is the best word I can find right now, but basically like doing something, being intentional versus being passive and like you know living life like a coast, like coasting through life. um, I cannot think. I'm gonna end it on this. Watch the anime, rewatch it. Me rewatch it, but watch the anime. It's really good. The themes, all that stuff. There are way more stuff that I didn't get to talk about that I wish I could, but I cannot think right now at all. As you have seen me for the past 10 minutes, like rambling. Um, but watch the anime is really good. Solid 9 out of 10. Um, I think it will. I think it'll flow a lot better for me when I watch it and like I'm able to binge it in a shorter amount of time. Um, I think that's pretty much it. I Man, I have to freaking make one for. I mean, I don't have to, but it's good for my memory to look back on. My my nephew had his birthday today, and holy moly, we are getting old, folks. We by me. We? Who is we? Um, but we all pass time. Time passes us all. We are getting there. Ah, oh man. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say. It's a good anime. It's a great anime. It's a fantastic anime, and I would recommend it to a lot of people. That's pretty much it. Um, yeah. Good night, I suppose.